that on the punch list.
Well, we'll figure
Just
it out.
use regular mic stands.
Yeah, and the dynamic stage mic sounds best of all because it's not picking up the
Yeah,
room.
that's why they use those dynamic mics in broadcasting. The SM7B.
Is it cool if I turn you
and the
down a little
RE20.
bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I sitting up too close?
Well, no, it sounds
I
great.
think,
It just,
just get where you're comfy.
yeah, that's why I want an SM7B.
Because I probably.
I
probably
had
gonna be like that.
a deal, or
Chicka chicka bomb bomb.
I had a little negotiation going on with one on the Facebook ads a month or two ago, and I lowballed the chick, and it pissed her off, and she wouldn't talk to me anymore.
Like embarrassingly low ball.
Well, I
or
thought
like,
it was. I don't know. I mean, okay? So it's a $400 mic, new, and she said it had only been out of the box a few times, but that's cheap talk. And should we let Tink out? So Sandy said what sounded snide of me was that I posted a Amazon link and said, so this is 400 on Amazon and it's used, and she was asking 325, and I said, I'll give you a 225, and that pissed her off, and she's like, it's already sold.
That's
What's snide
It
about
was
like,
a little low. Sandy said I shouldn't have put the told her, she said it's patronizing to tell them what it really sells for, because she probably already knows.
Yeah,
Not everybody's that smart, though.
Well, yeah.
There's
Yeah,
people
that's
putting
true, and they
garbage
take
on there
advantage
all
of it.
day
Yeah.
long for
that shit does work. That shit works though.
to an
sensitive.
extent, yeah.
But you gave a pretty low offer because
it was pretty low.
I remember selling the Strymon pedals at like $500. That badass pedal. I was selling one for $250. I needed money. Fucking.
Yeah, that was a
I
good
just
deal.
barely got it.
Yeah.
$250. That's a good fucking deal. I was getting all kinds of calls, but I'd get like, would you take 125?
Yeah, and
I'm like, dude, the
screw
pedal's
those guys.
$500 is brand new.
Right.
Those things resell for value
And-
pulls up to like $425 or something like that.
You never really know how motivated this. Like that looper that I got was less than half of retail, and it's barely been used. I got this newest generation. Now it's in there of it's a Boss RC505, and it's like a tabletop deal, but it's one of the first loopers to have 5 full channels and then like volume faders on it and everything, and it's
He's got all kinds of shit.
someone who's a looping genius like Marshall can just make that thing do anything you want. It's got effects in it, and it quantizes all loops. It's got MIDI in and out. It's just insane. So they go for I was thinking they went for $399 when I bought it, but they go for $499.
Yeah.
And this kid said, I'm moving out of town, and so I'm motivated to sell it. And he was asking, I think, $250, and I offered him $220, and he took $225, and it's like that's less than half of retail. And I figured even if I don't use it, which
Do you feel bad? Do you feel
well,
bad?
not really, because I barely. I mean, I only negotiated $20 off.
Well,
He
fuck.
must
I
have-
guess I suppose if they're just gonna.
he
let it go
needed
for
the
that,
money worse than that, and the thing is, as far as if
He probably wanted heroin.
I'm not sure. Not sure if I'll really adopt it into my setup, because I have a habit of buying things that I don't use. But if I needed to, I could flip that I could flip it in a day for $3.
Don't flip
and that's
that thing.
$75.
Hold on to that thing.
So I'm probably gonna flip it to Marshall or Neil for $3, because they actually know how to use loopers way better.
I got
than me.
first dibs.
Yeah.
I want that fucking thing.
So what you're doing, you're. So are you gonna be playing any instruments, or just like managing loops and doing
No,
vocals? or?
it'll be cross-platform. We will be building loops with live instrumentation, live on stage.
They both already
all
have
instruments?
They both already have his native instrument on stage is guitar, and Marshall can already make a collage of loops on just the guitar with that'll boggle you. I mean, he could do a performance like that if he wanted, but they're going to go further than that. So my guess though is that it'll start with a guitar loop or something, or maybe drums. It could
doesn't
start
matter.
drums, yeah.
There will be some
drums too.
There will be a few pre-recorded arm tracks.
Sure,
Like,
in Ableton.
I have no problem doing that. It's a duo. Like
Oh yeah.
and as long as you're adding enough live
Textures
instrumentation, yeah, you know what I mean. Instead of just going up there with the fucking laptop.
Yeah, it's
going,
one thing if
ding,
you
ding.
take your APC up there and just
Look like
push
an idiot.
buttons.
So, you know, it'd be actually building actual live drum loops. That's where the electronic drum set would come in with, you know, like real cymbals and shit. And we'd be able to have that going through the looper and build loops off that and then jump off and, you know, play a guitar solo or do whatever. You know what I mean?
So, like, as far as vocal duties, both of you handling those?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
they had a
We're
band
the
together
duo.
already that I recorded a few years ago. We recorded 2 EPs here and a mixed one that they recorded, and it was all fantastic stuff. And Marshall and Neil, I guess, is probably primary. He probably sings more than you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
As far as lead harmonies, though, all the time from Marshall. And Marshall will take a song once in a while on the vocals. So they've got 2 capable They had.
It
There's
depends
2
on
capable singers in this duo.
The song needs to be
and-
the right song too, because if you're playing a lot of complicated guitar parts, it's hard to do a lot of vocals. So if it's something that's
Right.
more song oriented,
Neil can take. And so Neil also plays the saxophone. And one of the coolest things
he's a
about
sexy beast. He's an all-around badass.
great
He's
voice
great.
and great sax player who's adapted it in a way that is I feel like it's unusual because you know it's not Kenny G or something like that.
I
He's
have a
adapted
buddy
it to
that's
rock.
a sax player that, I mean, when they really do know what they're doing,
Right.
it's like, oh,
It's like
not
another
just
voice.
that
It's like
fucking-
another vocal
Yeah.
line, melody line,
Well,
or
and he
like a lead
uses-
guitar
He
line.
uses effects and
That's what.
puts
Yeah,
like octaves on it. And does
that's
all
what I was
You were
going to get
telling
to.
me
is-
about that crazy sax he has.
I think it's called an iwi, as I think the name
Yeah,
is.
it's
But
a MIDI sax.
it's like this rectangle tube that and
It's a
you
MIDI
actually blow
breath
in-
controller.
Yeah, MIDI breath controller. So that you're controlling all the velocities with your breath. So you could kind of play it like a saxophone, but you can also it's MIDI. You can make it play fucking drums or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
you know?
nuts.
They've had that technology for a long time, but it's sort of like comparable to how they had that for a few decades on guitar too. But the tracking used to be so bad on the MIDI back then that there would be so much latency you'd almost have
dude.
to relearn your instrument and stuff. And
Dude, it's night and day
the
now.
tracking
It's
is so
instant.
much better. That's why it's not necessarily a new technology, but it's a much more effective implementation of an older technology.
Computers being able to handle it.
Yeah,
Everything
and so you can hook it. You could literally, probably, I believe, MIDI port right into your MacBook, and then call up Main Stage or something like
whatever.
that, and just do anything.
The
you want
beauty
with
about it too is you could build all your own samples. So, if, like, say you
Yeah.
build a really good loop, then you could turn that into a sample and then play it
as a
out
air
on the
controlled thing.
air
yeah.
control thing, but it'll change notes.
That would be
but
great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can use that sample to make another instrument of your own, and then be able to play it live.
Yeah.
So mixing things like that.
How far out are you guys before you start doing the live shit?
Honestly, we're just getting shit going. We've committed to like just getting together every Sunday, and we've been like mapping this out. You know, we've been playing music together forever, so it's been more just planning out what gear we need. We're all married, have kids, so money's
They
always.
change their mind every month or so as well on what
Well,
gear. But that's good though. That's because they're researching
we
it
do
out.
more research and we find what is gonna facilitate our needs the best and what has room to grow.
Technology's
with too.
growing so fast now too.
Yeah.
It's blinding to
Yeah.
kind of keep up with that.
But all we need is a good tempo sync, a good. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the best looper out there as far as. You know,
Yeah.
just the amount of freedom,
Ableton.
the amount of loops you can have, and then the VSTs within that,
Yep.
and using the virtual instruments
You can
along
even
with
use your baby little controller to do some
yeah.
pads or even tap in drums if you want. But of course, you want to have. Do you want to have acoustic drums to trigger samples or pads?
No, I want to have.
For your
That's why I
loops.
want to get the pads, and then
Yeah.
and
Easier
then,
to carry
and then
too.
use real cymbals though,
Yeah.
and because I hate to just have some.
Yeah,
Right.
I totally.
And then
Yeah.
and
the
then
cymbals are definitely
not to
the
sound
weakest
gay,
part.
but for live setting, I'd actually build some kind of cool mount for those electric drums.
Oh yeah.
Just to kind of aesthetics.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
I think that'd be
it's
awesome.
gonna be
Dude.
kind of modern sounding, but also, you know,
Here's
you know,
how I could collaborate
we're
with
old
you guys.
rockers, too.
I could be like a prop designer for you guys, and we could get some of these
hell yeah.
lighted mics and some some vacuum tubes that aren't doing anything
Yeah.
all over your drums. Make like a steampunk drum rack
Yeah.
that has steam gauges and bubbling shit
Absolutely.
all over it. That would be pretty cool.
That's the main thing. It has to be a show. It's embracing technology.
Yeah.
You know, because there's just
Yeah, you're definitely thinking about it more along the lines of, like, I mean, obviously the music has to hold its own, but
Absolutely.
but,
Well, and by the
there's-
way, with-
there's a bit of presentation, because the only
Yeah.
way you make money off it now is your live shit, right?
yeah, and it's got to be entertaining. So you
So
know.
the craziest thing is, though, I'm gonna gush a little bit about these guys because the Giraffic Jam thing, you know, I was in awe at so much of the stuff they did in the studio, but the music thing, they're not even gonna have to. I don't want to diminish it, but they're not gonna have to worry about that. That just starts coming out already. But then when they add this technological level onto it, it gets even more insane. Something I was going to say about Neil, he brought up the Iwi, which I almost forgot because I think he's only had that a little while. I personally have only seen it maybe once, but normally he already has like a very technological approach to the acoustic sax too. He has a little clip-on condenser on it, and then he's got he'll play it into a regular mic, but he can also use the clip-on mic to send it through. He has a massive pedal board just like a guitarist would,
And this is
with
all
reverbs
just
and
like,
delays
hey, this
and
is
stuff.
just all born in his own brain.
Yeah,
It's like,
and
I'll
he has
figure this
his own little mixer on the board, so he can route stuff to effects loops.
Well, there's definitely like influences. You see, like
I'm sure other people
see-
are doing it.
you see
but-
artists, you know. Oh,
Yeah.
you could do that, you know, and
Yeah.
then fucking check it out. And
Yeah, it's not like it's kind of like what we were talking about. This junk that I do. You're like, well, nobody else does that, right? Well, no, I actually thought of it I think of that shit on my own, but there are other people who think like me. It's kind of like that. Like Neil would have thought of that on his own, but he's not the only one to think of it.
But actually,
there's not a lot of saxophone players.
Right,
that
it's
do it.
it's
And he
pretty
does it good.
it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. It's really he's good at it.
Effects are a fucking fine line. You either learn how to
Right.
play them and use them as an
Yep.
instrument, or they play you
just
and it
become
just sounds
noise.
fucking
Yeah,
cheesy.
right.
You know what I mean? So it just depends on the
especially
style.
when, like,
you're
if
playing.
you're doing it through electronics. You take you think an electronic saxophone or like a MIDI sax. You just think, well, it's gonna go whoop, 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 whoop,
No.
whoop, but
No, the velocity sensitivity is so good these days.
Put
that
it on a
you get real
dubstep
quiet,
bass pad
swell
or
in,
something.
and
You know.
do all kinds of shit.
There's actual nuance to it and everything.
Yeah, he's got all the
that's
buttons, and
pretty
then he's also got a ribbon in the back that controls all kinds of shit. You could assign
You
it.
can assign it to pitch or like you would have on a
He hasn't
synthesizer
really used it in
controller.
its full effect, so this is.
Have you guys ever fucked around with like a, what's it called, a theremin?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
of those.
I think they're cool as shit, but for the investment, they're one trick. pony.
That's
Oh, yeah.
exactly the phrase I was going to use because they make kits, and as a geek, you know,
Yeah.
maybe someday I will want to put one together, but yeah, you can't. They might have MIDI ones now where you could do XY controls onto effects in the Ableton or something, but as far as the sound goes, it's you get what you get, and it's just that whistly synth thing, you know.
You've said Ableton like 12 times, and I just want to let everybody know. I mean, I got
Did you make the jump?
No, I got three, maybe 4 subscribers, maybe 5. Ableton's a sponsor, big sponsor. I'm getting a check now, like 12 checks because you just said it. So many times.
All right. Well, we'll keep saying it, and the checks will keep multiplying.
And,
So-
and apologies for cutting you off.
No, that's fine.
If you're looking into like
Seriously, it's
limitless looping,
It's industry
capabilities,
standard for what it is. That's no secret. It
It's
has
just
been
using
for
a
10
computer to
years.
do it.
Yeah.
It's software, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it works as a DAW, but it
Yeah.
also
So you have to have an interface
has
to
a
get everything
completely
plugged
different
into it.
way
They
to-
need plugged into it.
yeah.
So when you say DAW, like I've heard you say that a couple times a day too. What the?
That's a
Digital
fairly-
audio workstation.
Yeah, and that's a fairly broad term that encompasses your, and in general, when you say DAW, or when you think you're thinking of a multi-track recorder like Pro Tools or
Oh, okay.
Logic.
or Reason, or I mean, not Reason, excuse me, Reaper or Logic, Pro Tools and Logic,
Persona Studio One.
yeah, Studio One.
Is Cubase still around?
What's the
Cubase still
what's
around.
the cakewalk thing? Sonar.
Sonar.
Um,
Yeah.
But so
Ableton
it
records
has
too.
those functions, but it was designed around this other screen that you flip to that gives you a different perspective. That's like a timeline, and it's a clip based. I like it because I came up with computers and my job and everything being a spreadsheet geek. I really think well in the columns and rows grid concept, and so that's what you have is you just have a matrix of rows and columns where you can drop clips or loops that you do on the fly or anything, and then you can play them in one row at a time as a scene, or you can individually trigger them.
This is all audio.
Yeah, or it's anything you want. You
Really?
can put your own in, or you can
it's
pull up a
endless.
loop. It's really
can
endless.
make
It's
samples
like a
and-
soundboard.
Or you can play it-
By soundboard, I mean that like in the radio industry term, where a soundboard would be that you press buttons for different sounds. Only it's not infinite, but it's might as well be.
Might as well be.
And then in the
Well, you
background,
can-
there's this full-featured multi-track DAW going that you can put your other backtracks in. You can record on top of it, or you can record sequences of your loops that will now become a regular audio track. And
Well, the thing about it too is that to make clear is that there's all kinds of virtual instruments in there too. That you
Oh,
can
yeah.
put and play instead of just doing block layout of a pattern.
Right.
You can also use it to fucking play an instrument as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Did either one of you ever fuck around with Fruity Loops?
Oh yeah, we did. We had.
I never did, but
My
I read
brother had
about
Fruity
it, and
Loops way back when
you did too. Back
yeah,
in the day.
that's what
when
like,
it was at
I looked
first
at
came
it.
out. Yeah.
that's what I do all my intro segue stuff.
Yeah, okay.
With Fruity
It
Loops.
still it still gets respect, and so that gives you an understanding of kind of what some of what Ableton does. But I think Ableton might be unique in that grid-based view, and I don't mean the MIDI grid. I just mean
Yeah.
the clip grid.
Well,
but-
their looping capabilities.
yeah, when you
Get
get the
them out.
full version, it has its own special kind of looping plugin. But you can also just add to that clip matrix on the fly, and if you want, each one that you add will stay onto the loop and quantize itself and everything.
Yeah.
But
Well, and it's a mini time clock, so it
And it-
syncs up all your time-based
Yeah.
effects that you got going on. You can have
you
it
can
change
send one out to your hardware.
all your patch
Which
changes.
you can do that on any of the DAWs too, but that's the question I have about Fruity Loops. Is it as capable in that? Does it send out MIDI time code, and does it? What was the question I?
Which one?
Will Fruity Loops let you do things like put a VST plug-in?
All I've
or
ever done
anything?
is compose on it. So
think Fruity Loops
you're asking
does.
the wrong.
I'm
Can you
sure
put
it does.
plugins in
I don't
it?
think there's a program that doesn't allow that anymore.
Probably not. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Last
it
time
sounds
I
like-
saw Fruity Loops, it's come a long
it
way.
is.
The one I
It's pretty.
first. Sorry
I
to
think they
interrupt
should
you.
have changed their name. It's a little easier to take serious, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
like really badass loops or
Oh,
something
look at that
instead of
shitty
fruity.
fucking mic.
Saggy. That's the Chinese
Saggy
sag.
Bottom Boys.
Those are the $12 ones.
exactly.
You were telling me that,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
From on the camera, it looks like $100 one. Until it
Anyways,
flops.
I'm still gonna buy them, dude.
to end the conversation, the duo thing, the other main reason to doing the duo is that we've all been playing in bands for so many years that it's nice to eliminate as many personalities
Yeah.
and try to get as much
absolutely.
And when you find someone like how me and Neil get along, you know, he's one of my best friends, and we fucking, you know, it's
And
like
you've
a
been
brother.
playing together forever.
The
Yeah,
cuts are
dude,
better,
so
and the
not only do I
politics are better.
He
too.
balances me out, and I balance him. He's just mellow, you know. I'm
Super
fucking,
cool guy. We gotta get him down here to
Yeah.
talk about his thing.
Oh
He's-
yeah, dude. He'd have a lot of good things to say.
He has an interesting job too. He works at the Musician's Friend, and I think we'll have to verify this with him. But I think he just started as a regular, you know, like inbound call guy. But he quickly worked himself into kind of a specialty team that's selling higher end stuff.
Well, they
And
got all the
they're
school
ones that-
contracts.
They do
Well,
that
when
out-
you call them and you're like, "Hey, does this do that?" and they go, you know,
He's doing-
typically they're pretty good because I think they hired,
but
you know.
he's on like SEAL Team 6 where they
Yeah, he's not the
do
guy
all the
that
worship
talks-
house orders and stuff. That they do the
He does all the-
$50,000 orders where they're designing an installation for them and stuff
They
like
have
that.
all the school music program contracts.
school
so
and
they already
worship.
know ahead of time about what budget they're gonna get.
That's great.
for
That's
beforehand.
ideal.
So schools are actually coming through there to buy instruments and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you go to
Pricing
like,
is good, and they have a huge selection. And now they have people like Neil that you can call up and
sure
say,
they
"Help
give
us
him a
with our installation."
Killer,
I mean,
you know,
at least
quantity
verbally.
deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't go out and install it, but they tell them, they spec it all out for them.
yeah, because I mean, like a lot of these kids, you shoot down west, and these, I'm not gonna drop like names, but like where fucking they're on 12th West or whatever right here. We don't need to say who they are. It doesn't matter.
Music store? Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking
music
about?
store. But a lot of their revenue comes from renting
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
those instruments to kids.
I'll tell you a
And
story.
lessons and
Yeah.
stuff like
I'll
that.
tell you.
Yeah,
a
but
story
then
about that.
they'll sell me a fucking pair of drumsticks for $12 that I
Yeah.
can go down the road.
Yeah,
and
get for 8
Yeah.
or on Amazon
That's
for
what
7.
makes it hard not to support the evil guitars.
I'll tell you a story about the money to
I
be.
know. I was over there just the other day.
'Cause I always-
Dude, I'm a member of the Stick Club.
Dude, I always try to support the mom and pop shops, but yeah, if it's a matter of like if you're buying an $8 item and it's $12 somewhere, that's a little too high.
I had a personal witness to someone who changed their business model into that one. They might have been the first one here in Utah Valley, and it took them from being just kind of a small music shop to the guy. I can't guess what his net worth would be, but he seemed like he was probably financially independent, and that's Burt Murdoch, and
Oh yeah.
he's passed now. But so I had a close watch on that because my dad played drums for him for
So
over
Burt Murdoch's
15
the one
years.
in Center Street, Provo.
Where is Burt Murdoch now? No,
Burt
the
Murdoch-
Murdoch-
It's,
now
it's,
the
it's
only-
bigger.
the only one they
I'm
have
thinking
now
about
is
Bill Harris.
down on 12th West
Yeah, yeah.
in
And
an
favorite.
old down by the boat shop. It's kind of an old building, but it's large.
Yeah,
so
no,
here's
I
how
got you.
here's
I
how
actually
that
go
whole
there
thing
quite a bit. Their string prices aren't that bad.
here's how that started out. When my dad first started playing in the band with Bert, he didn't even have that business. I think he was an insurance
Was his partner's
salesman,
name
like in-
Ernie?
I think he
can't
sold
resist
farmers
this.
insurance or something like that. I'm not sure on that, but he wasn't in business for himself. And then he got this idea to start a music store. And originally, his first opening retail was. Do you guys know where Savers in Orem is? Mm-hmm. So just literally, I think the next door down, those shops start to make an L down in, and then it's that that Mexican restaurant that's really popular there now, too.
Beto's.
But no, it's like it's and
Del
it's,
Taco.
It's like
Taco Bell. What?
no, yeah, it's there's traffic jams there for people trying to get in.
Are we
all
still
the
talking
time.
about Orem?
I'm just trying to tell a quick story about, and it's not turning into be quick, but Burt Murdoch. So when he's in the band with my dad and they hang out all the time, several times a week, he begins and opens up this store, and so we would go out there to just talk to him and stuff, and it started out being a full. There's a name they have for that. It's not like full service shop, but there's some lingo in the music business for having when you sell everything like drums and guitars and whatever. And he started out doing that, okay, and the shop was a success, and people he was one of the best music stores around, and it was well run and had great inventory. But after he had been doing it maybe 2 or 3 years, I don't know, I'm sure it's accelerated because I was still a kid, so you know how much 3 years, but he switched to doing, he was the first one to get the trailers and fill them up with brass instruments and marching band
Probably
instruments
hit up
and
AF
send
band,
the whole state, and then Idaho, and send trailers around at rental time, and then all of a sudden Bert had, as it seemed like, as much money as he needed, and the band, he didn't have time for the band or as much motivation because he was making so much money.
Now?
They have that too, but I think they still do the band instrument
Summer
things,
Haze,
right?
the one that does the piano.
Do they still do the band instrument things
Summer
at
Haze.
Bert's?
I think they all do.
But
How come Bert's store looks like they just like their inventory came in and he just like took it out of the box and just set it in random?
that's because
places?
I think that I think that that's just a storefront extra thing, and they're making their money in the back room
And that
doing
one
those
dude
contracts.
is always there.
Dave, yeah,
They made this song.
yeah, he's.
What do you mean?
Let's
made
not-
this
yeah,
song?
let's not-
What is
talk
this?
about that.
We'll
We'll talk about that. But
Take it offline.
You'd have to just see this guy too.
No, he's
He's a nice guy, but
a good guitar tech. He's their guitar tech there, and so he'll like that's one of the
You know
few
what,
places
Dave?
you can.
Fuck you, bruh.
let's just say
Well, that's one of the few
he has a
places you can
romantic side.
still you can still take a guitar in there and just say, "Could you do a setup for me?" and he'll do a good job of it, But I don't think that's their bread and butter. I think their bread and butter is still doing the rentals. But another part of that point was I was so bummed as a teenager when Bert was starting to get in. He sold
Cough button.
Randall guitar amps. I remember. I've never played through a Randall, but he had a distributorship with them, and then he was getting guitars in. And Ibanez effects pedals and cool stuff like that, and I was just starting to get really interested in that and had enough paper route money to start to buy stuff. And my dad would take me out there and go, "Well, Bert will hook you up," and Bert would hook me up. Like if I wanted to spend some paper route money on a $100 guitar pedal, he'd give me a fucking hi mom, a sweet deal.
Dude,
but
if you're not gonna talk how you're gonna talk,
the end of
I'm
the
gonna
story
do
is
it.
the end of the story is or the end of that point is he was making so much money doing the band instrument rental that he just stopped. He just got rid of all of his inventory on that other stuff, and then I couldn't. There was nothing cool. I didn't want any French horns or anything like that. So
My occupation is in inventory, and I can imagine that he probably. I mean, you got to pay taxes and all this.
well, and there was no money in. Yeah, there was no money
you
in that.
have all that
I think they
shit?
call it a combo shop. That's what I was looking for, where they sell everything, and there's. In Utah County, historically, there has not been much money. When people come in and try it, Guitar City, not Center, tried it in the 90s, and they didn't last a year. People just are not buying that much of that stuff.
It's
If
crazy
you're gonna
because-
be a mom and pop store, you gotta like have some kind of like coolness
and
some kind of
niche.
vibe.
There
you know,
was-
like
there was-
guitars are
yeah,
house of
right.
guitars.
There was
Right.
one. There was one in American Fork, Rocks Records. You can go.
Oh yeah, I used to go in there all the time.
Yeah, you could go in there and you could find CD, and he'd have CDs, but you'd be like, "Hey, do you have?" And he'd be like, "No, but I could order it." And then, and that was just growing up, like probably.
So he started in Pleasant Grove, actually, in a
Did he?
tiny shop, and there weren't even CDs. It was
his
still
shop
just
was
vinyl.
cool as shit. And when you
I
went
used
to
to
that
go
guitar
into the.
room,
I only went there a couple times, but he used to have a shop right by the Purple Turtle in Pleasant Grove, and that was
Turtle.
that was on my way home from work
It's
when I
on by the
first got out of high
Pleasant Grove
school and
High
started
School.
working full
Yeah,
time.
I never
So
went
I would
there.
stop in there, and he always hooked me up with. He learned to know what we either had similar tastes, or he was just really good at understanding what my taste was, because he could always say, "Hey," it was like having a personal music counselor. "Hey, have you tried this? Look, check this out." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, some of my favorite albums." Like he
yeah,
got.
I think
hooked
I
up
was
with.
probably a punk kid to him, but he bought a building just south of First East. So you know where the
Over
library
by
is.
the old Christensen's. It was right on Main in American Fork for a while.
Yeah, right.
Is that the
right,
same place you're
right
talking
near
about?
there. But he was on Main,
Yeah.
whatever.
I went there a few times.
But it got to a point like where, and this is beyond. It's probably into my early 20s where it was like appointment only.
Really?
Yeah, but he
That's
owned
cool, though.
owned
That just
the
means-
yeah. It's not there anymore. I don't
Yeah.
think.
Is,
But he
is that
owned the
guy still
building.
around?
I have no idea.
We should try to look him up.
But he owned the building, so he didn't give a shit, and so he just
Yeah.
did it his own
Didn't
way.
have to make a lot of money.
Yeah, and so like his shop
cool.
was like if you'd ever been into that one, I mean, you had the CDs, and then he had select things, and he'd get you everything. But the number one thing that drove me nuts was he would always be like, "Yeah, I don't have it in here, but I can order it." And I'd
Yeah,
be like, "Okay, I'm gonna go
that's sort of-
get it."
I can order it too.
But but as you're walking around in a store, you see this room, and like for me, I did not dare to go in it because it's this fucking it's just like this slightly tinted glass room, and all these crazy guitars hanging on the
Yeah,
wall.
I was gonna say. I think he started selling guitars over there.
Yeah, I think he was like selling high end guitars or something. Who knows? But
That's cool. The little shop he had by the Purple Turtle was, I swear to God, the whole shop was probably smaller. Maybe not counting his back room, but it's like if you build a back room behind the drum set, and then the rest of the floor was no more bigger than this room, and it was only vinyl. And I remember thinking it was cool because I went in there. I would stop in there on Friday on payday, to buy 2 or 3 vinyls with my paycheck, and he'd usually be listening to something that I already liked. So, but he could also tell me, "Hey, if you liked that one that you bought last time you were in, try this out." And I'm trying to think of some of the band. I think he first told me about like Rat, and stuff like that. And there's a fine line on that for me because
Hey kid, I got
despise.
something else your mom's gonna
I
hate.
despise bands like
Check this shit
Poison and
out.
stuff, but Rat I liked. Anyways, so
you
it was
despise
some good
Poison,
hiccups.
but you like Rat.
Rat, and I like Rat Poison. I like to drink it. But anyways, I was so impressed as an underage drinker when I was buying records from him that he was drinking a can of Coors behind the counter. I thought that was so badass.
He loved this job.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's why they call Rocks Records Rocks
But
Records.
let's
Rock.
figure this out though. If we want to look him up, hopefully he's going to watch this podcast anyway.
Oh, yeah,
he's
absolutely
somewhere
will.
in our
Dude,
500,000 viewers.
This thing's all encompassing.
But his real name probably isn't Rock, right? And I know his last
the
name
fuck
isn't
could it
Records.
not be Rock?
I never knew his last name.
Hey,
So it's
you
like
bypass-
it's like Bill Gilbert or something like that. We've got to look him up.
you bypassed an important story.
What's that?
The song. That the dude from
Oh,
fucking
no.
Burt Murdoch's band.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
The guitar tech.
Yeah, well, he might be in our viewership too.
So let's get some.
No, he's
No,
not.
this is
Let's
these
get
are.
some imagery. He's,
Don't worry, this will never
This
get
is
posted.
just a
Was he-
second-hand thing.
How about if I never post this?
Well-
you can just speak
Just-
freely.
Yeah. We can
Well-
edit stuff out. So he wears like, what do you think? He's like.
This was a
early
second-hand
50s?
story to me, so I can't.
Early
tell it
50s. He's
exact-
like
You
early
can.
50s.
Well,
right now?
I'm
you
early
say-
50s,
you
and he's
say
a bit older than me,
allegedly
so
second-hand
he's
story.
late.
Okay,
late
so
50s.
image of him right now, like, you know, 57.
He's a great guy, man. I don't want to say anything
Long
shitty
hair,
about
but
him.
he slicks it back. He's kind of going bald and wears, you know, like a wrinkled button-up shirt every day.
What do you mean? Why would you have to say anything shitty?
Well,
It sound-
Marshall's heading in a direction.
I'm not heading in any. I'm just giving you a description.
he's
so
painting
there's-
a picture,
So
bro.
there's a visual of this
Okay,
person
yeah.
because the visual is so important to me.
Yeah, okay. Well, he's older than I am.
If this guy
by a
looked like
bit.
fucking Fabio, like, it'd be a whole nother story.
Yeah, and
But
I'm not speculating on how
he doesn't look like
attractive he is. I don't
does-
know how to gauge that.
he doesn't look like Marky Mark, and you know what I mean. He's older.
But we
Not your
do. We
typical
do.
ladies,
though.
Oh,
man.
dude, of course.
Yeah.
No,
Not a
no
typical
judgment.
ladies man.
but just give a visual for the story.
Yeah,
Anyways, good.
He's
Hey, you're being way too apprehensive and thinking that people
Dude,
give a
there's-
shit about the shit you have
well,
to say.
okay, Dave, if you see this,
You have an option to have this edit it out.
and
too.
also
But
this.
I'm posting.
There's no disrespect here. It's just
it's a
it's
story.
just vulnerable.
It was a
exposes
moment of
someone's
time in life.
vulnerability, and I ended up having hooking up with a woman that was much younger than me, who shall also remain nameless.
Just holding hands and stuff, right?
Well, no, we ended up getting married for 10 years, so
okay.
that narrows it down for those of you
No,
that
you're
want to
not-
do your Google research.
In Utah, you're allowed to put it in the butt and you're still a virgin.
If you go to utahcounty.gov and search the divorce
That's fucking
records, you can
serious.
find out the
Now I
name.
know.
utahcounty.gov, look in the divorce decree. You can find my name in there. But
Nobody
if you
searching
really
this
want to know who
podcast
this
for-
woman is. But anyway, when I first met her, she
You put it in her.
this other dude, which is cool, is way older than me. So I'm just part of the I guess awkward humor of this is that I was on the fringe of the age gap. I was a good 10 years older than this lady, and then this other guy had to be another 5 years at least older than me. So it's just
This is
not
the Burt Murdoch's guy.
yeah, it's just
Not Burt, but the.
it's not that how can it gets a little awkward when guy's 15 years older, and she
Well,
had
the age gaps
he
change.
it depends on the
Age gap has
situation.
nothing to do with the story.
Well, I think
Okay.
it does.
It's
I
completely
do
irrelevant.
think it does, because I think that
You
was
guys
part
both
of
dated the same woman.
right.
Let's just get to that point.
But I think
Yeah. You're right.
it's
yeah.
completely irrelevant.
So we'll just.
So let's just
But
fast
the-
forward to this is what
the facetious part is that
He's just making up words.
she
it's just throwing out words like to get,
she
totally avoid the fucking story.
she was that much less likely to have succumbed to his advances because of his age, so that is relevant. And he really was really interested in her, and so he wrote a song for her.
Oh, that's pretty aggressive.
And I mean,
Wait, now, so
But
they never
there were-
dated or anything, or went on a date?
no.
This was just
No, they worked together in a studio.
So he
okay.
was-
So
he
this was his introduction to like let her know like I love you.
yeah,
He's smitten by her and just.
smitten by
He
her,
wrote
wrote
her
a song,
Man, poor guy.
and I never heard
Hey,
the
that
song.
was a
I
hold
just
on.
heard that it was awkward.
1950. That makes sense. What year is this?
Well,
1980.
let's
something.
speculate. No, later than that. Let's
90s?
speculate late 90s.
Late 90s.
Late,
you know,
90s.
back when that
Well-
kind of stuff maybe was making a comeback. I don't know.
He
well, it
watched
was
like
just
a fucking Adam Sandler.
it was
what
just
that?
it was cheesy. It was as I heard again
would
secondhand. Someone
I
just
would
told
kill to
me.
get a recording of this song.
Well, I didn't hear it. I think
Yeah,
I
is
saw a lyric.
I'm gonna
sheet.
go in that store, accidentally playing it way too loud on my
I saw a
fucking
lyric sheet.
headphones,
I didn't hear
my
the song.
earbuds.
I'm gonna take it dark.
While I'm
just
buying some
kinda,
strings.
I'm gonna take it dark, kind of slightly. The dude that who was that dude from Utah that went all fucking nuts, killed his wife, they couldn't
And then his
find her,
kids.
and then he blew
Yeah.
him up. But
his dad.
his dad had that.
Dude.
Did you hear that?
Oh
creepy-ass
yeah,
music?
we need to pull that up.
Was
I can't
was
think of
this
his
song that you're talking about anything like?
Well,
this
I didn't
creepy
hear
fucking
it. No, it was just cheesy, and there was some. There
If
was
you
some.
want to pull it up.
There
you
was
can
some
find
bad
it,
Well, that's why
literature
the
in it.
visual is
There
so
was
important,
bad
'cause
literature in it.
I
bad,
can just imagine what
bad
this song-
grammar or
Well,
missing punctuation.
misuse
Literature.
of misuse of words in a. Okay, well,
A
fuck,
song
we're
to
in
a
so
15.
deep right now. Just
Dude, you're
If-
dude.
Dave, if you're watching,
You're-
will
you're
you
past the waves of the
will you
ocean.
please
You're
still tune up
floating.
my guitars
You're
if I
wide
bring them in and
open.
pay you the money? Just please, please, for
Is
the love
Dave
of
the
God.
one that wrote the song?
Yes.
Well, dude, if you're uncomfortable,
Well, okay, here it is. I mean, we're this far in, and
No, you
but
can't
then-
knock the dude for trying. It's just, I guess, the cheese factor.
well, the thing that
Like if you could pull it off,
the thing that we chuckle
Understand the
about, and
perspective, too.
sadly,
you know, like if Gary Clark Jr. fucking wrote a love song to
It's
some
a-
chick, she'd be fucking.
here's the only problem: is it's a dick thing to do to laugh behind someone's back, and I did it.
well, I
at
call
the
my
time
yeah.
because
Okay,
what it
okay.
was is that he wrote a song.
I would have no
And
problem
and
laughing in front of his face.
I don't recall all of the lyrics or anything, but it said something about to this woman that you are my morning dove, and
Mm-hmm.
but it was spelled MORNING, and maybe he was.
Wait, no,
maybe
no,
if
no,
I could have heard
wait,
the
you
song.
You didn't need to do that.
Wait.
Maybe
You
if
said-
maybe he meant to
You
do
said
it.
MORN.
Yeah,
Did
so
you mean
it's-
MOUR?
No. Well, we think that he did. We think that he
That's
doesn't
what he
know what a
meant.
morning dove is.
Wait, what? How was it spelled? Because you said
It was spelled like the first part of the day.
In the morning, you wake
And
up
so
in the morning. Get some
we
bacon.
felt like that he didn't
You guys sat and
understand
analyzed this.
that a morning dove was morning, and we felt like that it
You
meant
have this
something
recording
about
somewhere in this
waking up
house.
to a
I know you
beautiful
have.
woman that's so gentle as a dove that she's my morning dove, but he missed the point that
Yeah.
morning doves are really sad.
Yeah. Hey,
you got
that
hung up on
recording. Where's that recording?
No,
That recording
I
in this
was.
house.
This was no, I've never heard it. It was just the lyric sheet was presented to me, and
There was
the
a lyric sheet.
it was presented to me with a roll of the eyes, and I said, "I see why you're rolling your eyes."
So let me ask you this: did he play it for in person or record
I believe
it?
so. I believe he. I have no idea. Maybe it was. Maybe it never had a song. Maybe
That
it was
takes
just
a big
lyrics.
bag of sex.
Maybe it was just lyrics.
That's just fucking.
But you,
That's,
dude, you put yourself out there when you're
that's-
right like that. That's very vulnerable. You
Yeah.
know? You're putting
Well,
yourself
very,
out
very
there.
vulnerable.
And not only did he get snubbed by the woman, but then she
But-
came and made snide remarks
Also,
to me about it,
Do
and
you
I
think-
laughed.
It's hard to judge people's personalities because I don't know them that well. Do you think he was that fucking confident in himself? Like, do you think it was an arrogant thing? Because that could go both ways.
Confident or ignorant? Those two
so-
kind of fucking run side by side.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
definitely don't think it was
There's
a joke.
There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. You know, what I mean?
Arrogance and ignorant. Well, yeah, you're right. yeah.
Arrogance. You know.
Anyway, so
But do you think it might have been arrogance? Like, oh, I got the shit in the bag. Fuck.
well.
Write
I
this
think
song.
that more so than I would
So
have,
good.
because I wouldn't think that I would be able to write a lyric like that
Or
and
you
win
think he was
a
just on a
woman
bunch
over.
of cocaine and made that? It was just was not his right mind.
That doesn't seem like that adds up.
No, that's a dude smitten as fuck, and he's like, what
and
can I
it's
do?
just, I mean, it's kind of sad. He hung it out there. He's got his dick chopped off,
Oh Jesus!
and
Poor guy.
but then I married
He was probably
a woman,
crushed.
and you know, in retrospect, it might have been better that if they would have just hooked up, and then we wouldn't have dated, and I wouldn't have had that marriage. But there were some okay things about that marriage. I try not to regret anything that I do in my path.
I'm recently divorced. Also.
I forgot to ask you about that.
So, but we don't have to get into that. But I can understand that part of it.
Well, I'm not bitter. I don't hate the woman, but it was a match made in hell.
Toxic
Especially at the
relationship.
Well,
at
I
the
met
end-
her. She was awesome.
Oh, that's
bro.
right. Well, yeah, that was before she got the
We don't have to do
the
this.
brains
We don't
the
have to do
brain scan or the brain electric washing treatment.
Well, yeah. My dad. I was doing a podcast with my dad, and he started to go off on his ex, and I was like, "Hey,
That's my mom.
maybe I'll leave
Is
that
that
out,
my
huh?"
mom?
And he's like, "No, you don't have to leave it out." And I was like, "Well, you know,
It's
this,
my
this,
mom.
this," and he goes, "Yeah, maybe you should cut that out."
Was it your mom?
No, it wasn't my
Oh,
mom.
okay.
It was-
That would have been even worse. It's like, Dad, you're talking about my mom.
That's me, mom. Shut the fuck up.
yeah, I started crying, and fucking shit went all haywire.
Fucking asshole.
Oh yeah, God, I forgot we can't cuss on here.
Oh, that.
He's on a PG network.
Yeah, the FCC's listening.
Man,
I've got a
wrong
beep button
person.
right here.
Some bleeping for me because that's a.
Ready? Let's try it. Oh wait, I forgot to beep.
Oh, we all doing the beep. No, I think that
Say I
think
don't
that would
give a.
eventually get
Say
annoying.
I don't give a some.
I don't give a It does work. It works good. But hey, you know what? What I do give a mother. You guys want to take a? I mean, my bladder's rattling, so I
Okay.
think we hit pause on a couple things, and
we could make a new podcast and edit that one out since we just talked smack on
bullshit.
a local asset to
No.
our community.
no, this is all going in one.
That was gold.
This is gonna be a 6-hour podcast. All right.